Good afternoon for coming in. Just getting everything all set up. Looks like we're good. Get this pasted in and get started here. So, see how this goes. I left off yesterday. And, so make sure just recording the screen since, you know, content or whatever, right? But, uh-oh, my screen crashed over there. I'll be right back. Where'd it go? All right, let's put that back up. Should be better. Linked out on me all of a sudden. A little bit. Nice and tight. Anyway, good afternoon. For those coming in or watching later, I'm Peter SAKIEVICH, arts educator, artist, and I am working on a pitch project for a comic here. So, some pages I did a while ago, I've been meaning to kind of get to and get these all nice and cleaned up. And just getting this taken care of. All right, that is working okay. Let's just make sure that's at 100%. So, kind of working on getting these pages all colored up, get them cleaned up and out the door. I selected this brush. Okay. Anyway, going through today, cleaning up what needs to be cleaned up. Actually, let's go ahead and turn that off. And I can see what's going on. So, this is using this color. Yep, there it is. I should probably go ahead and add that color in and add that color in so I have them for later. So I'm just going through, clean up this page, and hopefully get it all done, and maybe start another. that's kind of the plan for today. So if we get this one page all the way done, and then move on to another one. Get producing, right? And I'm going to soften that up. That there. All right. Now, so how is the wide world out there this Sunday afternoon? Everybody got big plans for the week? It's cleaner. Alright. It's not moving, is it? Okay, it is just a little delayed. Just checking. I noticed. Okay, good. Freaked me out there for a second. Good afternoon. There you are. That ended up being purple. How's that? Put the color on. Better. And hopefully play around with that, getting this to be a little lighter. Something like that. Out of that. Alright, let's get some color variety in these shadows. Something like that. And you. Good afternoon. Let's get a little color variation in these shadows. In this one. Still feels a little all over the place here. Good afternoon. Robin. This one. Where's that hiding out here? Let's see. Good afternoon. cleaning up some artifacts. They're sticking out to me. Good afternoon. Just gotta put these on. These reading glasses. Good afternoon. How are we doing out there this lovely day? A little toasty. We have a dog curled up under a blanket off to the side. Ah. What app is this? This is Infinite Painter. It's a iPad app. It's actually on Android too. It's also on the phones, so it'll work, those places. And it's a pretty unique one. I like it because this one of the things I like is for this fill brush thing that I'm using here. And there are other applications that have that, like Clip Studio. But yeah, it's actually got a bunch of comic stuff in here. It's got a panel drawing thing. I'm not using. This is all hand drawn with ink, so I'm just coloring in here. But again, it has like this brush right here, which I like. It just fills stuff. Though the other apps that do have that, so like Clip Studio has that. There's a plugin for Photoshop that'll get you that. But in this one, you can also put textures in it. So like this is a texture one I have here. So it has like a little like rock texture in it. So it appears more obvious, like that. I also have one, and I have a set of these that I've created so that it works as screen tones. So like that. Here's I'm just using for the flat colors. But again, it has a whole bunch of stuff here that's really handy. I like how it does perspective and the circle tool and a bunch of other things that are pretty unique. And it's like, it's like $10 or something in the iPad store, the App Store. So it's it's not very expensive. But like one of the cool things it does, I have to pull the power off, is like when you have the perspective stuff on, it actually has like a circle drawing tool, and it'll line up the circle when the perspective stuff is turned on. Will actually draw to the it'll actually make the circle correctly in perspective, so it'll work as a proper ellipse. Which is pretty handy. But yeah, it does a bunch of cool stuff like that I think is really unique, and I'm just always surprised that more people don't use it, don't know about it. Um, the only drawback for me is that it doesn't, you can't import brushes from other applications. So, but beyond that, once you get like your brushes set up like you like, it's like I don't know, you don't even think about that. So, it's not that big of a deal. Um, but I'm just kind of going through and cleaning stuff up today. And hopefully finish this one up so I can start on another one. But I'm trying to do this kind of shapy fill thing, so I'm not. So yeah, but definitely highly recommend it if you haven't tried it out. It is it's free to try in the App Store, so you can download it and kind of dink around with a little bit. Though like a lot of the stuff I'm using here, like you have to actually pay the $10 or whatever it costs to get it. Yeah, it does a bunch of cool, unique things that I like specifically for my own creative processes here. Let's see. What else I want to touch up here? I want to put some actually red on that. So let's go ahead and hide these. We'll grab you. That should be in the foreground, right? There it is. So, yeah, let me know if you try it. It's you. Yeah, just kind of go through and clean up a lot of these marks. So I kind of get things in here in a big way to start off, and then come back and clean it up. That's the wrong color. Colors. You. That's locked. That's right. Mm-hmm. Good afternoon. Let's turn the lights back on. The light color, actually, we should do is go ahead and select up here and delete. Oh, I did already select that. Good. Got our highlights here. Again, select. And make sure we get that. Delete. Continue. Let's see. It's just like musics. Here's some singing. So I was like, here's this really repetitive thing that you didn't want to hear. Let's see. Let's see. I'm going to fix up those eyes too. It's here. Let's see. Good afternoon. Welcome to my coloring book. Let's see. Good afternoon. So that color. Let's try this layer. What's the deal? All right. So how does that compare to this one? This one. Not that one. This one. How do we feel? So that versus this. Might be too bright. So what if we keep trumping? Delete. Delete. I need to add it. Not you. Delete. Delete. that. So let's see. Maybe before I do that, let's just see what happens if I knock. Let's look at this one. This is the brighter layer there. Just knock that back a little bit. Hi, Donnie. If that is indeed Donnie. Let's see, push that down a bit. Why did they do this to me? Have you moved to Arizona yet? Yep. 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 If we were to push that back up. Let's see. Maybe I should put a pause on this one and come back to this one later. And start up a new one. So let's go ahead and do that. I've already got them here, so I think this is the next page. There it is, next page. Kaboom! Set that to multiply. And we're going to set up our white areas on here. So we need this brush and the square tool. It's the wrong color though. Oh, there goes the crash. I wondered if it would do that since been pushing it pretty hard. Thank you. You are perfect. Let's see what we got going on here. Where's the layers at? I don't know. Well, it should be fine. Need to put an obnoxious color in the background so I can see what I'm doing properly. Yep, that's what I thought. So, grab that. Let's put it through the whole layer. All right. this one there. And we'll grab our square tool and our brush. So before I'm thinking about it, I need to stop that and start it again. Now, something like that. Turn that off for myself. All right. And here, get rid of that. That's you. Insert like that. What if I gotta replace this tip? I feel like these used to last longer. Okay, and then there were some seams that needed to clean up. So go to the inking set. Grab not the taper throws. Set that to black. And then the middle's right there. So it has a little seam. It starts a little bit down here. A little bit of cleanup. So I should have been a little more careful when I was setting this up. Wouldn't have to worry about cleanup here. There. And there. Good afternoon. So I miss the stuff there. I don't think there's any issues there. That's good. think that catches all the noticeable issues. And then we come in here. Let's grab a looking brush. Use that to erase. Where'd the black border go? What the? Oh, looks like I deleted something. Can I get back to that? When did I lose that? How far back did that go? So I erased this whole thing out by accident at some point. I don't know when I did it. Is it per layer, maybe? Well, when did I delete that? That's a problem, right? So maybe I can, let's see, if I just delete this layer, can I import, delete, I want to import photos, not photos, I want files. Grab the one. Not you, I want to import files. And this would be, it's not here. That's right. Got my hard drive. Alright, hard drive. Right here. It's on that. Import files. Working 2 terabytes. And it should be this one. As a layer. It should be the same size. Yep, there it is. Oof. All right, we did it. That was scary. Like I somehow erased out a whole thing on there. I was cleaning that up, and let's set that to. Gotta clean the clean up again, but check. Set that to multiply, and then brush. I don't care about this thing. There we go. I guess I'll do that. Where'd it go? Alright, go away. So I was in the middle of cleaning up this stuff. So where's the middle? Right about here. There it is. There we go. If you go up, apparently I didn't do a great job of lining this up when I was putting it together. So that's on me. But just taking it to clean up those seams from the scans. Need a fresh border on everything too. All right, up. And then what we were doing was I was trying to clean up some of this stuff, and I think what happened was is I switched to the eraser and grabbed the wrong thing. There. Mm-hmm. It should be mostly okay. Clean that up. Should leave that on top. And voila. So now we've got the obnoxious color on it. Start filling stuff in. Move that up. We got our big explosion. So let's go ahead and grab that. Just gotta add my color palette in here. So I have it. Ooh, right. Big sky right here behind them. Fill it in the background here real quick. Basic colors kind of locked in. Alright, so that'll be the background. Let's grab some foreground stuff. So we'll use for that as a color, just a general one. So like this guy right here. Wrong brush. And off the square brush. driving in these flats quick as I can. Foreground stuff. Good afternoon. Happy Sunday. The calm before the storm, right? $3 o'clock, not bad. Like someone's out there doing some yard work. What's a good number of colors? You know, well, for me, it's like I'm trying to keep it pretty limited in this case. So, you know, I'm just kind of getting it laid out so I know what the zones are. So I'll probably like a few layers for the kind of the approach I'm using for this. So it's not like, depending on the complexity you're trying to do things, that makes a big difference. Like mine's pretty simple. So I like to have like, you know, foreground, middle ground, background regions. And so I set that up and then, you know, have as few, for what I'm doing here, depending on what if I was doing something I wanted to be more complicated, then I could do a lot more. And then I'll have like, you know, colors for specific things, like, you know, that's the color of a uniform, or that's the color of the grass, or whatever. But it really depends. Like, you know, like I'm painting this all brown right now, but I'm going to separate these into a couple different colors. And then I'll do a shadow layer on top. Sometimes a second shadow layer if it's necessary for certain effects. And then usually like a couple of lighting layers for what I've been doing. Again, you know, if I was doing like a whole bunch of like color holds and all of that, that's a whole other animal. But for what I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to keep it relatively simple. So, I start off with like an obnoxious background color. Make sure I'm covering things up. But yeah, but it's fairly limited. Like I think this is what I've been using for the recent palettes. This is like shadow color, shadow color. I'm missing why I didn't save it properly, but the lighting colors from the last one should be in there too. So we'd have to go back and grab those. The highlight colors. I mean, they're not complicated, but helps to keep things consistent, I guess. But again, if you're doing something more complicated, it can involve a lot more colors than what I've got here. The main goal for me is like to make sure it reads clearly. So however many that requires to get clarity. Like if I feel like things are, so I've set up the previous few pages I was working on, let those sit overnight, and then if like they're too confusing, you know, when I look at them, then I'll want to simplify it down. If I feel like I can get away with more, then I might add more. So one of the things that kind of helps with the consistency in coloring is lighting, understanding how lighting works. So if you've ever looked at like how 3D people handle lighting, different layers that they use, they'll have, you know, there's the base color, or usually artists call that the local color or local value. So it's like the nameable color of something. You know, this is brown and this is green and whatnot. That's like your local color. And a lot of times there's a tendency to go too intense with that initially. It's like a lot of amateur painters in that. Like they saturate every color as intensely as they can. Because, you know, color's fun, right? You put a big bright blue or a bright orange on something and it's feels good. But if you work with these render layers, which is what I like to do with this stuff here, is basically you can, and I use fewer for this than I would like with the digital painting. But basically you add like a base shadow layer, and then, well, I've watched some color as color, and like I don't understand why they do it in such a complicated way. That like, yeah, I put all these different colors on a single layer so I can go through and select each of them, and it looks really time consuming to me. Yeah, so basically you have like a shadow layer, which is like your main shadow shapes, is what I usually do. And then if I'm doing a little more complicated, I might have an ambient occlusion layer. And then, for these I've been using maybe two multiply layers, usually just one. And then I have two kind of highlight layers, and I use the screen effect for those. And so this guy's all kind of in the foreground here. And that's the background up there. And then these guys are both, well, he's foreground, so we'll do the foreground, middle ground. And then, but anyway, so like I usually do like one multiply or two multiply layers for the shadows. And then, because the iPad too, I have some memory limitations, so I try to keep it all grouped up across the whole page. And then usually two highlight layers or two light layers. And then the flat layer or the local color layer, that'll kind of sit underneath everything. Yeah, it is easy to get like really complicated with color. If you're having trouble with it, I would pick like one dominant color, and that's where color theory comes in handy. So, you know, the warm and cool is really about complementary colors, like orange versus blue. Actually, one of the problems you run into with should try Infinite Painter. This like shape drawing tool I'm using. This is like an Infinite Painter thing. It's really handy for doing these fills. There's a similar tool in Clip Studio, and there's a plugin you can get for Photoshop. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it'll do this. But when Infinite Painter, what it'll do is you can actually put a texture in this. So like I've made some screen tones for it, which you can't do in those other programs. I'm not using it here specifically, but it is a thing that you can do. All right, this is all foreground here. But the program itself is like, it's like $10. And this brush, if you look in the brushes, it's over in the fills. So if you go over here, I made my own little like brush sets here, but if you go to the fills, it's at the bottom of that. That's the solid fill brush. But I have like my own little collections here. So I'm really, for this, I'm really just using this brush, and sometimes I'll use the airbrush if I feel like, you know, I want to fill some, you know, add some additional color into the shadows, which I'll do, you know, periodically just to get a little variation, or, you know, imply that there's like some kind of reflected downslide in there. But again, I'm trying to keep it relatively simple. I tend to like the flatter coloring approaches mostly anyway. So this is nice because you can just draw the shapes. And I like to do is draw the shapes with this pretty rough and then go in and clean up the edges. So rather than dealing with selections, I can just draw the shape, which is really nice. This actually has panel drawing tools in here too, so it has like a special tool up in the tool sets. Let's see, it's over, I guess, in the second category. Yeah, panels. It'll draw panels, and when you draw inside the panels, it keeps your drawing inside of there. Yeah, and the fill thing too. There, it also requires like I have to go here and here and here. I'd have to do it all over the place. This is nice because I just trace the shape. I think you can do that reference layer thing here too, where you can kind of fill colors. But it's not a thing I've really used. And there's all the perspective drawing stuff in here that other apps don't have. Like it'll lock your ellipses or circles in perspective into the correct spot if you use the circle tool when you draw. There's a whole bunch of handy stuff in this program that I'm just really shocked that it's not more well used more often. It's not more popular. It also has non-destructive adjustment layers, which can be really handy for comics too. Like if you're trying to give your image like a final unified look, adjustment layers are really handy. So that's over here at the top. So we come up here. So if I wanted to, I could say drop a gradient map on top, and I can pick like different colors for the gradient map, and based off of its relationship to the light, it will adjust that, and I can kind of push it to the side or whatever. Here's like the middle tone values. So you can see as I kind of push it this way or that, and then I can set that to sit on top as like a multiply layer or colorize layer or something like that. It'll kind of add instant unity to everything. And I can always go back and change it. And they don't have that in Procreate. They don't have non-destructive. I think part of it is, I think Procreate's got really great marketing. I mean, Procreate's a really good app. Don't get me wrong there, but they've got really good marketing, and that's part of why they're so well known. And a lot of people make tutorials, and it's kind of it's kind of a loop, right? So they have really good marketing when they came out. They were doing a really great job of taking advantage of the interface when they came out too. So I was using Art Studio Pro for a long time. Initially, just because it was more like Photoshop. It has a lot the menus and things and all that. And but Procreate did like a really good job of using like the touch interface. And so yeah, and then their marketing was like really on point. And this app here, I think it came a little bit later. So by then, Procreate kind of already had a market dominance. So I think that's part of it. Jared Krupp, that looks like a familiar name to me. I feel like that's a student from a very long time ago. Feel like it. I'm not 100% sure, but But yeah, I really like Infinite Painter. I mean, this kind of line, this select fill brush or whatever it's called is worth it all by itself. Especially if you're trying to drop in flats. Try to put a little bug up here. But but yeah, it's definitely high. You know, like I'm always recommending it to people. Like you know, whenever I'm using it, because I use it all the time. Procreate does do some other interesting things, right? Like you can do animation in it to a certain degree. Though they do have like a more official app for that now. But you can't do that in here. Or you can paint on top of 3D models in Procreate, which is also really nice. I'm thinking about doing is because of the panels thing and some of these other tools in here for like perspective drawing, about doing my roughs in Infinite Painter, and that way maybe help speed things up. I'm going to give that a try kind of next, just in terms of process exploration. Like I know like what's his face who's doing Battle Beast. Is that Otley doing that? I think it's Otley. Yeah, Ryan Otley's doing Battle Beast. He does his stuff. He doesn't Procreate, but he does do his layouts and things on the iPad. And I've done all these layouts for like that first issue a while back on pencil, but I've been like, oh, what if I could just move this around a little bit, move this panel over here or enlarge this real quick while I was drawing it. I don't feel that way once I'm kind of into penciling for the most part, but once I'm into like the initial layout, I kind of think about that a lot. Yeah, for $10, though, like it's really cheap and it's really good, and I don't know. I also like the idea of coloring on the iPad, or even doing the layouts on, just because the iPad's about the same size as a comic, right? Yeah, the larger one anyway, the iPad Pro. So, the other thing I like about this one too is the 3-finger touch. So the brush size will change. Instead of having to go over and like hit the sliders to change brush size, you just use your fingers and you go up and down with 3 fingers. Once you get into this is like, total awesome, useful tool. Also, swiping right and left will change the opacity. And that's just once you get kind of used to doing that, it's so much easier than going over to a slider. The other thing that this one does too, which is really handy for if you're doing like any kind of technical drawing, is when you draw like a curve, right? You hold it, it'll snap to a curve in other programs, right? Well, this one, as long as it's still live, so if I tap the stroke, I can change its brush size still after it's while still live, and its opacity. I can also change the brush I'm using, so I can swap to a different brush. And you can move the curves around here like this. So rather than like touching a separate thing, you can just do that. You can also change it from like a round edge to a sharper edge just by tapping. Why is it working? Tap. There we go. Tap the curve right there. You can get rid of points. You can add new ones in. And again, you know, while it's still alive, you can do all this stuff to it. So, yeah, like again, this is like something nobody else does, and like being able to do that's just like it makes things a lot easier. But everyone's, you know, using Procreate. Again, Procreate does a really great job with what it does, but it's just like there's these really unique things that you can do in here that nobody else does. So, um, and like, or if you want to do perspective in Procreate, you have to like go in and turn on all the perspective. And this app, there is like a menu for all the stuff. All the stuff is up here. This is all things I've added out here. So I've taken stuff that's in the menu down here. And you can add it up there. You just hold it and you pull it up into there. So this is a custom menu. But like if you're doing perspective stuff in here, you just turn it on. And then you can, you know, move the points around if you want over here. And then if you know, it'll snap to it automatically, and the snapping stuff's up here already. But if you use like your circle brush and you're drawing in perspective, it will draw the circle correctly in perspective, and you can move it around after you draw it. Like that's really cool. And again, it's just like another thing that nobody else does. So like, you know, between the adjustment layers, this shape drawing tool and how it works. So I look at something like, why is everything, you know, all about the Procreate? And they've both been around, you know, not too dissimilar in length of time. So yeah, it's on your phone. It's on Android too. So even if like people on an Android tablet, it's over there. And Procreate isn't on Android, so you know people on Android. I don't like it when I catch my dog chewing on his rear. He just got a bath like a few days ago, so shouldn't have any friends. But who knows? Maybe it's a mosquito bite or something. But yeah, it's just I think Procreate you can do this now. I haven't used Procreate in a while, but you can drag the color picker out and put it where you want. Just kind of nice. And you know, if you don't want it out anymore, you just drop it onto the little X there in the middle. It goes away. Yeah. Yeah, because we did find like a big mama flea on him the other day. And hopefully, we got her before she, you know, left anything around in the house. I saw this video of a Chinese product. It's like a laser thing that targets mosquitoes. Can clear like a whole region of mosquitoes like very very quickly just by you leave it out. It just zaps them all with lasers. Yeah, so I'm always recommending this program to like students and people and online here. And I think I'm a pretty good salesman for the product. I have worked with the Infinite Painter people. I did a presentation at Lightbox for him, a guy who runs it, and I had lunch with him at Lightbox. The presentation I did was online, back during COVID era stuff. But I did meet the actual guy in real life at Lightbox a couple years ago, which was nice. But but I was using it before then. Like they commissioned me to do like a rocket ship, well, a spaceship thing. I was doing a bunch of these spaceship drawings in it. I didn't realize I had that thing with the circles and perspective when I was doing those, which he points out to me if you find the video for it on YouTube, um, where I'm doing a little demonstration. We're talking about it. But yeah, the screen tones it has are like a brush that you draw with. So if you go over to like the screen tones here, these are ones you actually draw with. The ones that I made, so like if you were to draw with this halftone right here, like it looks great and it does this thing, but I think if you start a different spot, it covers it up. The ones that I did were, let's see, where did I put them up here? It's basically a, not you. The ones that I did, it's actually like a background texture, so it doesn't ever move. So it's like you could slice into it, or like you would with regular screen tones. So that's kind of the difference between those that it comes with automatically and the one that I made. And all I did was I just made a circle. If I go to the settings up here, it's just a circle. Oops, turned my screen off. And lost my recording session. Yeah, mine's it's literally just like a circle. And then I have different sized ones for their spacing. So they're still on. This one brush I want a brand new. That way it's more like an actual screen tone, like you would, get from Japan or whatever. But yeah, but again, I'm just shocked like it's not more popular, just because of like a lot of people like, um, for comics and things like they like using their iPad, right? Because it's really convenient and it's a nice size and what they're drawing and coloring and all that in here. I think it has text tools in here now too, so I guess if you wanted to do those, I don't think it does like the official embedded like balloons, but you can type stuff out in here now. My tip is starting to wear out. Um, just leave that off as like middle ground, I think. I think that'll work better anyway. Alright, main foreground is done. So next up we'll do some middle ground. So new layer. And another color. About this one. So this guy is more middle ground here. So, yeah, but whenever I'm doing this, like somebody usually buys it because it's just like, you know, people are just unaware that it exists for the most part. And which I find strange, you know. It's like I mean, there's lots of good options for different things out there. But like, you know, if you're looking for this kind of feature from like Clip Studio, I mean, Clip Studio on the iPad is like a monthly subscription. Which, you know, if you're just trying to get this out of it, then I guess this would all be foreground stuff here. Yeah, middle ground's fine for now, anyway. My dog's like, you know, it's getting kind of close to that time. He's like, well, I'm ready. Like, yeah, 20 minutes, puppy. 20 minutes. Gotta wait. It's one of the words we do not like. So, oh yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah, what I try to do with this kind of initial fill is I generally kind of get in here a little bit rough, so if I go a little bit out of the border like that, it's not that big of a deal. So I just kind of like get it all in and then go in and kind of clean it up. That makes sure I kind of get the main thing in there in a big way first. That. Oh yeah? Aston. I need to get up to Boston sometime. I was in Eastern Massachusetts when I was doing grad school. I went over to Norman Rockwell's museum that's out there. One thing I wish all these apps would do would have your zoom in percent somewhere on the page or somewhere on there, just so you could tell how zoomed in you are. Is like you get 100% or 1,000% zoomed. None of them do that for some reason. I don't understand why. Maybe I should send Sean an email. Hey, what's up with the? Why can't we do that? Yeah, because I just never understood why it's not there. 100%, 1,000%, whatever. Yeah, because once I get these major flats in, then I can lock the layer, and then I don't have to worry about it kind of going over the edge when I don't want it to. So that's what I like to set this up this way first. So that's why I kind of do it this way. Sufficient color variation that's related to the subject. And that could probably stay put. That's probably okay up there. Alright, so we'll go through and clean things up. So that is over. I think the hand is supposed to come out behind there. Oops. What do I do? Erase the lines. I'll erase the lines. let's go ahead and shut these off. So just see this one. Knock back that opacity. Make sure we got everything we need to get. Delete anything you don't want to delete. So so that's kind of what I'm doing. You're just getting these major zones, and then I go in and once this is done, probably do that this evening, later after the W and the dinner. Come up and start separating it into the major colors, and then once that's done, then we'll do the shadow layer. Depending on like the amount of space, like there's a lot of deep space here, so I might do two separate ones. You know, one for like the foreground, one for the middle ground, maybe one for the background, and then but like the interior space I was doing before, because it's a smaller space, I just thought it was better to leave it as one. Making sure all these gaps are filled, and then we clean up the outside edge where necessary. That's one thing that kind of helps me when I'm working in general, is to have like a general plan of approach. Yeah, there's again a lot of different ways of somebody's zooming by. There's a number of different ways of doing it. I think I've watched some like professional colorists do this stuff, and it seems like, at least for me, like there's a lot of like it's complicated the way that they've got it set up. And I'm like, well, you could simplify that by doing this or this other thing. And I recognize that that's their kind of process, but it just seems like it's taken them a lot more time than maybe it should sometimes. Like, you know, make it kind of. I mean, I can see having different layer setups for each panel, depending on, you know, the lighting situation or scene changes or things like that. So again, if you're doing like, you know, the super complicated color holds and all that, that could be a good reason, because you're almost treating each panel like a painting. And so that could be a justification for it. But if they're doing like relatively simple coloring, like I'm trying to do here, like I'm not trying to, you know, I want it to go relatively quickly and, you know, let the inks kind of carry things for me. That's doesn't require that level of complexity. So I've certainly done more, you know, complicated illustrations and things like that. But it would definitely probably need to do it on the computer, depending once you get over a certain number of layers and level of complexity. What's going on with my headphones? turn the music on and off for some reason. Did I, like, move my head weird or something? I think it has one of like sometimes I think these machines are too helpful. I think this one has a thing where if you take your headphones off and you set it down, it turns off the music automatically. And I don't think you can turn that off, and I don't like that because sometimes if I move my head because I'm, leaning over my board or my table here, the act of moving around like that can turn the music off, which is annoying. So, it's just this kind of age of helpful machines that's kind of a bother. Sometimes. And it's like a lot of times I'll see these videos. I watched one today. I think his name's Brendan Dahl. He was talking about how AI causes this homogenization because of how it's structured. So the way it structures, he's focusing on a lot of language. Does a similar thing for images, but basically it's based off of certain kinds of patterns of text, and as a result, it delivers kind of these results that are homogeneous in how the language is structured. And to be creative, you need to to come up with authentic and original or really useful solutions that are more likely to bring you success. You can't rely on a machine to do that for you. It's going to give you kind of a homogenized output, like you get with AI. And I'm not sure if text is the same way, but I know with images, there was a study that was found that basically all AI images are founded on basically 12 image types, and then it varies them from that. So there's like a specific interior that it's all based off of, or a specific landscape, or a portrait, or whatever. And for all of them, there's like 12 images basically that they build it off of. And so when people use generated imagery, they're really coming up with something that's homogeneous. Even if they can't tell it, it's kind of built into the image. What's funny is the guy's like, what's really good for like grabbing data and these other things and things you don't want to do, and I'm like the answer could be, well, maybe, but if you had to pay for it to do it, like the actual full price of what it costs for it to generate and parse that information, would you? If you had to pay 300-400 times or more, which gets you closer to the unsubsidized cost, would you pay for that? For it to save you a little bit of time collecting that information. Oh yeah. I mean, it depends on like the number of what it's basing it off of. People will comment like on the M- issue, which I haven't seen as much lately. So maybe they programmatically removed that. But yeah, well, they tried charging by token. It was still heavily subsidized earlier this summer, and everybody freaked out. I know OpenAI is offering some kind of discount on tokens at the moment, because people don't want to pay for it. It's like they've been. They talk about how popular and how much people use it, but I think it's like around 2% of people actually pay for any of these services, and very few pay at the higher levels. It's like you have like 2% that pay for all the basic stuff, or you know, there's 2% that pay, and of that, you know, a percentage pay for the higher end services, I guess you call it. That's like, yeah, it's like saying something's popular because you're giving it away for free, but as soon as you don't, you know, people are gonna not really want it because they're already not paying for it. So, you know, why would they want to start paying for it unless they were getting significant returns on that investment, which people really aren't, you know, relative to its actual cost. In better news, Jim Cramer says it's time to buy SpaceX. It's a great buy. So that could be the sign of the collapse right there. I don't know why that guy still has a job. Like, he's always wrong. Especially about important stuff. I mean, I guess he gets ratings. That must be the reason why, but... yeah, it's weird. It's like, yeah, you'd think he'd be embarrassed to come out into public at this point. He's like a living meme. Yeah, but apparently he was saying, he says, you don't buy SpaceX for immediate profits, you buy it for generational ones. So for your kids to enjoy the benefits of it, that's why you buy SpaceX, because you know that's when it will be truly valuable. So you want to get on the ground floor now, so later on, when it, you know, when we're putting colonies on Mars, you've got your slice of the pie waiting for your family. That's some real forward thinking right there. Long-term value. Such a weird take. It's like SpaceX's most valuable thing that they do in terms of actually making money is Starlink. Like, not even their rocket launches for the government and things, like, that's barely makes them any money at all. Their major kind of contributor to their overall value is let's see, clean up these. These are on top. Let's grab this brush, solid black. Change that. The 3-finger thing. Don't forget to try that out. It's really nice. All right, and then we need to go to white. Just cleaning up that edge off of there. Let's just move that below the lines. Always clean up those later. All right, well, it's 4 o'clock. So time for me to get the dog out for his WALK. It is his time, huh, Bosch? Is it your time? Yeah? Let's see, here's Bosch down here. So it's my time. So anyway, yeah, thanks for coming in. Yeah, 2-finger thing's nice. Yeah, it's up and down for size, left and right with 3 fingers for opacity. But yeah, once you kind of get used to it, like, it's a big deal. Everyone says hi to Bosch. But yeah, time for me to head out. So thanks for coming in. Probably be back later tonight, a couple hours or something. There